Hello guys, and welcome to the first ever episode of the CommonFolk, where we talk all things Pauper Commander. Today we are talking about some of our favourite cards from the latest Magic the Gathering set, Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. We are very excited about this set, right Sam?
We are super excited about the power level of the big boys. I like big boy cards, I like powerful creatures, so I'm happy with this set.
Big boys indeed. And as an introduction, my name is Stephen.
And I'm Sam.
Just to clarify, this is not going to be a full set review. If you'd like to check one of those out, please do check out the PDH pals on Tuesday on their Twitch account, which we will link in the description. They'll be doing a full set review and it will be a great old time. Please go there. But without further ado, let's get into some of our favourite commons from the set, right?
Let's do it!
To open up, I have picked Migratory Greathorn, which is a 3 and a green for a 3/4 beast. It has Mutate for 2 and a green, and when this creature mutates, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Now, I think the value of this card is outstanding. At its very worst, it's a 4-drop 3/4, which, to be honest, isn't bad if you don't have any creatures on the field, you're behind, you just need a body. Get it down, it can block a lot of stuff, but at its best, you mutate, it searches your land, it buffs the creature you mutate onto it, +3/+4, which is not to be sniffed at. I like this card a lot. I think it's going to go in a lot of green decks in PDH. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, it's just got a really great rate. I think if you can get that mutate trigger off, it is just going to do a lot of work in ramping those decks out. And the decks that it will fit into, those stompier decks, is really going to appreciate that ramp.
Absolutely. And that's even when you only cast it once. If you're abusing this, if you've got a few more mutate things, which there are a few more mutate things at common level, or if you've got any bounce effects or return to hand effects, it's going to get a lot of value for you. I'm a big fan of this creature, and highly excited to put it into some of my decks.
I think it's going to do a lot of work.
Oh, it's going to be good. For my next card, we have Bushmeat Poacher, which is a 3 and a black for a 2/4 human soldier. Its ability is 1 and tap, sacrifice another creature, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and draw a card. Now, as much as it's not a repeatable effect, because you have to tap down the creature, I like this card a lot. It's a sack outlet, which is always good. It draws you a card advantage is always nice, and the life gain, it doesn't hurt. It's an extra ability tagged on there. I'm looking forward to putting this in my Cruel Celebrant Aristocrats deck. It's going to be a great old time. It's going to draw me cards, which, honestly, I'm kind of severely lacking in that deck. And it's a 2/4 as well. That's not to be sniffed at. It can block a lot of stuff. You just leave it up, activate its ability at instant speed, and away you go.
It's going to do a lot of work in those Cruel Celebrant decks, those pingier control-y black decks are really going to enjoy this.
And finally for me, I have Serrated Scorpion. It was going to be another card, but this guy got spoiled yesterday, and I just couldn't resist it. It's a 1 black 1/2 for a Scorpion. Already pretty decent, because it's a Scorpion. When it dies, it deals 2 damage to each opponent, and you gain 2 life. That is a lot of value on one card. In any deck that abuses it, this is going to be doing 2, 4, 6, 8 damage again easily. It's going straight in my Cruel Celebrant deck. That obviously ups it to 3 damage and 3 life. Playing multiplayer, playing against 3 people, that's 6 damage for 1 mana and a sack outlet. That is insane value. And I'd be happy if it was a 1-drop 1/1, but it's a 1-drop 1/2. It can block turn 1, turn 2, 1/1s, 1/2s for days, and it'll be fine. I really like this card. I'm looking forward to playing it a lot.
That's going to do so much work. It's just such a great rate in multiplayer. It's just so scary. It can blow out a game. Because 4 players, it's just going to do so much.
Yeah, and even in 1v1, like, if you're playing against a burn deck, that makes a 4 life difference in the game. Dealing 2 damage to the opponent, gaining 2 life. That 2 life against a burn deck, for example, could be game-changing. It's always very close with the burn decks, and getting them to run out of steam if you're getting life is 100% what you want to be doing.
Yeah, totally agree.
Sam, what have you got for us for commons?
So, my first choice was, if you know anything about Sensei's Kitchen Top and you've seen any of our games, you would know that I like red, I like aggro, and I like burn. And this card is no exception to that. This is Fire Prophecy. It is a 1 mana and 1 red for an instant, which says Fire Prophecy deals 3 damage to target creature. You may put a card from your hand on the bottom of your library. If you do, draw a card. It is just super nice for red, where cycling card, draw card advantage is very lacking, so any form of that is very welcome. But it can also do a lot of work at a later game. If you are flooding out on mana, you can throw one of those lands away, and you can get another card. I think this is a very, very, very solid card.
There are a lot of creatures with toughness 3 and less in this format that do a lot of work, especially the commanders themselves. So being able to deal with those at instant speed for 2 mana is very good. It's obviously a burn card. But also, as Sam said, late game, you're getting flooded out with lands, mana flooded. You just ship one of your mountains to the bottom of the deck and get something better in your hand. It's a good card.
It's very nice. So my second card is in my opinion up there for best common of the set. This is Blood Curdle. It is 3 mana and 1 black for an instant, which says destroy target creature, put a menace counter on a creature you control. Now, any destroy effects is solid, especially for Pauper Commander, but you've just got a little icing on top with that menace counter. So how these counters work is that you are able to put a menace counter. It works like a +1/+1 counter, but you put that counter on any creature that doesn't have that effect so far. So you are playing, say, a Fanatical Firebrand, a 1/1 with haste. You destroy a creature on the other side, and then that Firebrand will get a menace counter, which gives it that keyword. So very strong, perfectly fine rate in our format. For 4 mana, an instant destroy, play whenever you want. Very, very solid.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think in the best case scenario as well, if you've got a big creature out or your commander is a Voltron kind of deck, you can deal with one of your opponent's creatures, stick the menace on your commander or your big creature, and then they have to chuck 2 creatures under your large boy. So in best case scenario, this is a 3-for-1 card, which is incredible value. And while there are some very, very premium removal at 2 and 3 mana, I think the 4 mana plus the menace is good enough in the right decks. If you're running black, green, and anything else, chuck it on your big green creatures, away you go. It's great card.
It's going to do a lot of work. So my final card is a green card. I'm going through the colours today, and this is a instant which is called Ram Through, which is 1 and a green instant, which says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature you don't control. If the creature you control has trample, excess damage is dealt to that creature's controller instead. See, I really like this card, mainly for its synergy with one of my uncommon honourable mentions that we're going to talk about later. But it is really, really solid for giving that extra fight ability, and if that's got trample, you're going to get that extra damage through. So this is going to work really well in your bigger green stompy decks, and your possibly your trample tribal decks, and things like that. Again, it's an instant fight. The fight mechanic is so needed in green. It's one of its primary sources of removal, and I think it fits right into that kind of archetype.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I don't think I have anything to add to that.
There we go. Absolutely killed it, mate.
Absolutely killed it. just like the creature you're going to be fighting as well. So.
Hey.
And onto the uncommon creatures, which is, of course, the most exciting bit of any new set, usually unless they've got very good commons. There were so many uncommon creatures, we decided to go with some honourable mentions before we get to the main event. So I'm going to open up with Skull Prophet, which is a black and a green for a 3/1 human druid. It has tap, add black or green to your mana pool, and tap, put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Now, I think if you are building any sort of Golgari deck that's got anything to do with graveyard recursion or anything like that, I think this is a very strong contender for your commander. Having a mana dork in the command zone consistently get you 4 mana on turn 3 is good enough as is, personally, I think. But then later in the game, or if you don't need that extra mana at any given point, you can fuel your graveyard-related cards. It can fuel Delve, it can fuel Reanimator spells. I think this is a very good card. And, in a pinch, 3 power, it's going to deal with a lot of attacking creatures. It's actually very annoying to get around. I'm a big fan of this commander. I'm looking forward to building it in the near future.
I'm so scared to play against this deck that Stephen builds, because it is going to screw a lot of different things. It's that flexibility to have the mana early on, and then to have that mill ability for your treasure cruises, for your delves. Really, really solid.
I'm a big fan of this card. On to my second honourable mention. Something a little bit different here. I've gone with a mono white card. Ooh, I know, mono white in Pauper Commander. Who'd have thunk it? I've gone with Keensight Mentor, which is a 2 and a white for a 1/4 human cleric. When it enters a battlefield, put a vigilance counter on target non-human creature you control, and then has 1 and a white, tap, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control with vigilance. Now, obviously mono white has its own downfalls in Commander, let alone PDH. Lack of card draw and card advantage in general is quite a difficult thing to overcome. But there are so many creatures with vigilance at common in mono white, and in a format that has very little board white, or board control in general, it's going to be tough to deal with. You get 5 or 6 vigilance creatures down, you're putting 1/1 counters on them every single turn. It's going to get out of control very, very quickly. I just think it's a solid mono white commander. I think it's very viable for one of the top mono white commanders if you're building vigilance. And in a format where combat damage is a big thing, and combat damage is one of the main win cons in a lot of decks, having vigilance, being able to attack in the air, evasion, and then being able to block as well, is just strong. I think it's very good.
Yeah, I think one of the things that brings this over the line as a really viable commander is that vigilance. It's such a historic keyword in terms of the amount of support over Magic's history with it is going to really allow you to build that wall of blockers that is impenetrable. So I really hope it can make mono white a little bit more viable. Excited to see what it can do.
Yeah, 100%. Looking forward to seeing what people make of it.
Yeah, it's exciting.
All right, Sam, over to your honourable mentions then, please.
So, to start off, I am going to stay in the same vein as Stephen's mono white vigilance commander, and I'm going to go with a card in that same cycle, which is Hornbash Mentor. And this is 2 and a green, 3/3 human warrior creature, which has, when Hornbash Mentor enters a battlefield, put a trample counter on target non-human creature you control, and it has the activated ability for 2 and a green, and tap to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with trample. So super excited to try this commander. I think in a similar way with the mono white, there's a lot of support for trample in this colour in green. It is its main source of big tramply creatures, and I think you can really build a big army of that. And as we say, PDH has such a emphasis on combat damage as a win con that it can do a lot of work. But one of the most exciting things about all of this cycle that's based on ability counters is that it can give those abilities to different creatures. So super exciting, and I think you could kind of sleep on the activated ability for this. 3 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on everything. If you've got 4 or 5 different creatures out, that's going to do a lot of work, and that could easily close out the game for you. So I think that's an exciting card.
Yeah, especially as it's trample as well. It means that it's going to be real hard to stop those coming through. 3/3 with trample becomes a 4/4, becomes a 5/5. It gets harder and harder to deal with. And if 90% of your deck has creatures have trample, there's only so much removal in the world. You're gonna run out. You're gonna fall to the world of trample beasts, which is I'm not looking forward to that.
And I'm looking forward to helming it.
I know you are.
So my second honourable mention, as in the uncommon slot, is Necropanther, which is 1, a white and a black for a 3/3 cat nightmare creature, which has mutate for 2 Orzhov, and it also has the text: whenever this creature mutates, return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, really solid body, first of all. 3 mana for 3/3, really great. But if you can get off that mutate triggers, it's going to do so much in a reanimator deck, in a recursion deck. It can be getting back most of our strong cards in black, because of the kind of format we are. It's going to just do a lot of work. But again, if it's not getting too many mutate triggers, it's just really solid Orzhov Commander, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. When I first saw it, I definitely considered switching out my Cruel Celebrant for it. Even though there's not many mutate cards at common at this point, you sacrifice this creature, you use one of the many black spells that return stuff from your graveyard to your hand, you mutate it again. It's very good. And I don't think the buff that it gives is to be underlooked as well, especially if you're placing it on something like a lifelinker. Gaining more life every turn, it's very good. I'm a big fan. It's also a nightmare cat, so it has that going for it as well.
It's just great subtypes.
Right, well, onto the main event then. The final commanders that we have picked from this set. We have both brewed a deck list, and we will be talking about those briefly. So, Sam, do you want to kick us off with yours?
Yeah, so I picked a card that is dear to my heart. It is a Boros Commander, and I think it could be the first of a new archetype, which is really exciting in this format. And this is Savai Thundermane, which is 1 white and 1 red for a 3/2 elemental cat creature, which has the text: whenever you cycle a card, you may pay 2 colourless mana. When you do, Savai Thundermane deals 2 damage to target creature, and you gain 2 life. Now, as we said, we built decks of these and we play tested them last night, and this was really fun to play. I kind of built this deck as a burn shell with a cycling sub theme, and the cycling worked a lot better than I expected, actually. A lot of these colours, Boros has a lot of cycling support. There's about 40-50 different cards to choose from with cycling, so you can just do a lot of work with it, and it did a lot more than I expected. There's quite a lot of nice crossover with burn and cycling, so was able to do a lot of work. And this card, before you even look at the text, it's got a good rate. It's a 2 mana 3/2. It can blow out a lot of stuff early game. Get this out turn 2, and you're away to the races. So really exciting.
Yeah, I can tell you for sure it is terrifying playing any creature with 2 toughness or less, especially as the commander I chose is a 2/2 in itself. Very difficult to play around, very difficult to know when your opponent has cycling cards in hand and can just ping something to death. And the 2 life gain is certainly nothing to sniff at either. Especially as the deck I was playing was a lot of small damage over time. Very difficult to kind of get over that and keep going.
Yeah, I really found the flexibility of this deck was something really positive. I really found that it really wasn't running out of steam half as quickly as a lot of burn decks I've played. It really had a lot to do a lot of the time, and I do find that you can empty your hand so quickly in especially in a mono red burn shell, that then you're just done. But this really kept it with that flexibility of paying the cycling and the extra costs from Fundamain. You've always got a lot to do, and actually I think that's something that we overlook in this format quite a lot, that we can just run out of steam so quickly in a lot of archetypes. So having extra stuff to do in this sense is really, really useful.
Yeah, especially a deck that's not running anything blue or black. Very difficult to keep on top of that card draw, and the cycling, while not technically card advantage, is a nice thing just to go through your deck, find your better burn spells, and get some extra value while you're doing it.
That's it. So, what have you got for us, and what did I have to endure last night?
Much to Sam's joy, I built Cunning Nightbonder. Cunning Nightbonder is a 2-drop 2/2 with flash, and it says spells with flash you cast cost 1 less to cast and can't be countered. Now, much like Sam's shell burn deck with cycling involved, I have built a Dimir control deck with flash involved. So we have your classic counter spells, we have your hand disruption, we have removal, and then on top of that, we use flash creatures to slowly get in the damage and over time wear the opponent's life down until we can go in for the win. I found it incredibly useful having flash creatures because you're just not punished for leaving up mana. If your opponent doesn't want to play any spells or can't play any spells, instead you just flash in a creature, and then that's more damage next turn. The versatility of this deck seems great. It does help that it's in blue and black, which arguably are 2 of the strongest colours in PDH with all the card draw and the removal. But the addition of the reduction in flash creatures makes a lot of the relatively inefficient flash flyers very efficient. Having a 3-drop 3/2 flash flyer is actually a lot of value. And as we found out last night, while it was very close, our best of 3 game, the Cunning Nightbonder, did come out on top. I'm very excited to build this deck in paper.
Yeah, I think one thing that really can be overlooked with this deck is that ability to always have something to do with getting those flash creatures out. I think I do find that a lot of control decks, especially in PDH, can kind of just dither around if the opponent isn't doing the right thing for them to counter or control against. So having those flash creatures just come out, get that damage in incidentally each after that turn, so solid.
I must say, one of the exciting things about this deck is it gives a very solid deck for Mystical Teachings as well, which is a 3 and a blue instant, search your library for an instant card, or a card with flash and put it into your hand, and then it's got flashback for 6. I love being able to tutor pretty much any card in my deck into my hand. Big fan of this deck, had a lot of fun playing it.
It was very nice, and I also really didn't enjoy the card he was tutoring, which was Alexi's Cloak, which was able to give Shroud to his commander, which was so annoying for a burn deck, obviously, where you just want to be able to get rid of that creature as quick as possible and move in for the damage, but it just did so much work in games 2 and 3.
Absolutely, yeah. If you guys want to check out these deck lists at all, our deck lists will be linked in the description. Please check them out. Please give us suggestions on what we can take out, what we can add, anything we can do. As we all know, PDH is a great format for brewing new decks, so please get involved with that. Please join us on that. And any time a new set comes out, there are so many new, especially commanders, they like printing stuff at uncommon creatures, that you can build. It's a great old time. And I hope being on this channel has inspired you to maybe pick up the format and give it a try with your playgroup. Super cheap format, super easy to get into, have a good time with it.
Yeah, great. I'd just add in that please try this format. The easiest way to get involved is to check out the tapped out compendium of PDH decks. It's got decks for each colour, each combination of colour. There's about 4 or 5 different options for each one, so there will be something for everyone, something that will take your taste, and just get it going. That's the biggest thing that Stephen said, is the cost of this format is so cheap to get into, so easy to build as well, and you are always able to find the cards you want because they are at Common, they are printed all over the place, everybody has got them. We can build these decks super easily and get to the battlefield as quick as possible. So please join us in PDH.
Absolutely. Do check out the PDH subreddit. There's also a PDH Discord as well. And check out the PDH Pals as well. They live stream every Tuesday and Thursday, I believe. We will link them in the description as well. They have some great gameplay. Hope you have enjoyed this first ever episode of the CommonFolk. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again, either at the gameplay table or listening to our podcast once again. Any last words from you, Sam?
Thanks for listening.
Wonderful. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Bye.